A $5 bill usually buys a coffee. For Sophia Campbell, it bought a war. Homeless and terrified, watching her mother bleed from yet another beating by a man the law wouldn't touch, a 5-year-old girl made an impossible decision. She took their last $5, money meant for bread, and walked into the most dangerous building in the city. Not a police station. Not a shelter. The headquarters of Mario Dragon, the crime lord they call the Dragon. A man whose name makes grown men whisper. She didn't know what a mafia boss was. She only knew what the older kids at the shelter said, that when the courts fail you and the cops turn away, there's one man who can make bad people disappear. Her hands were too small to reach the table. She stretched on her toes, placing the crumpled bill down like it was a fortune. The room, full of armed men in $1,000 suits, bathed in the glow of a chandelier worth more than most people earn in a year, went silent. Mario Dragon, a man who'd built an empire on fear and blood, stared at the dirt-smudged child in the stained white dress. No one had ever walked into his inner sanctum uninvited. Certainly not a 5-year-old. "This is all I have," Sophia whispered, tears cutting tracks through the grime on her cheeks. "But my mummy is dying. The bad man hurts her every day and nobody will help. Please, mister. Can $5 buy her life back?" For 3 seconds, the most dangerous man in the city didn't move. Didn't speak. His face, carved from granite and violence, registered something his lieutenants had never seen before, shock. Then, quietly, almost gently, "Someone get this child food, clean clothes, and a safe room. She's under my protection now." What happens when a desperate child accidentally awakens the conscience of a monster? The answer is brutal, beautiful, and redemptive. Before we continue, please like and share, comment where in the world you're watching from. Hit that subscription button so you don't miss our next story. We are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers. Please encourage us to get there. Thank you. Tommy Ears Castellano had seen a lot of strange things in 15 years of working the streets for the Dragon family. Junkies talking to pigeons. Undercover cops wearing fake Rolexes. Politicians crying in alleyways. But he'd never seen a 5-year-old girl in a stained white dress asking a homeless man for directions to a crime lord's headquarters. "Excuse me, sir," the child said, her voice small but determined. "Do you know where the Dragon's house is?" Tommy froze mid-stride. The girl stood on the corner of 5th and Marconi, clutching something in her tiny fist. Her dress, once white, now gray with dirt, hung loose on her thin frame. Bruises shadowed her arms. Her hair, dark and tangled, hadn't seen a brush in days. The homeless man she'd approached laughed, revealing 3 teeth. "Dragon don't got a house, kid. He got a fortress. And little girls don't go there." "But I have to," Sophia insisted, her lip trembling. "I have money." Tommy's instinct screamed. A kid alone in this neighborhood? Asking for Mario Dragon by reputation? This was either a setup or a tragedy waiting to happen. He crossed the street in 4 strides. "Hey, sweetheart. I'm a friend of Mr. Dragon's. Why are you looking for him?" Sophia's eyes, brown and far too old for her face, met his. "The bad man hurt my mummy again. Nobody else will help. The kids at the shelter said the Dragon fixes things." Christ. Tommy glanced around. Predators circled these streets like sharks. A lost child wouldn't last an hour. "Okay, little one. I'll take you to him. But you gotta stay close to me, yeah?" Sophia nodded and slipped her hand into his without hesitation. The trust nearly broke him. The walk to headquarters took 12 minutes. Tommy kept her on the inside of the sidewalk, his body a shield against the traffickers and dealers who watched from doorways. When they reached the iron gates of the Dragon's compound, the guards stared like they'd seen a ghost. "Ears, what the hell?" Marco, the head of security, gestured at Sophia. "Since when do we babysit? She needs to see the boss. She's 5. She walked 4 blocks through our territory looking for him. Alone." Tommy's voice hardened. "You gonna tell Mario Dragon you turned away someone asking for his help?" Marco's jaw tightened. He spoke into his radio. 2 minutes later, the gates opened. Inside, the contrast was obscene. Sophia's bare feet, Tommy noticed now she had no shoes, padded across marble floors that cost more per square inch than most people's rent. Crystal chandeliers threw golden light across oil paintings and armed men in designer suits. They led her to the conference room on the third floor. Through the double doors, Tommy could hear Mario's voice, low and controlled, discussing shipment routes with his lieutenants. Marco knocked once. "Boss, we have a situation." The conversation stopped. "Enter." The doors opened. 6 men in expensive suits sat around a table covered in maps and ledgers. At the head sat Mario Dragon, bald, scarred, his face carved from angles and old violence. His eyes, dark and unreadable, fixed on the tiny girl in the doorway. Every man in the room tensed. Sophia walked forward, her steps small but steady. She climbed onto a chair, her head barely clearing the table, and placed something down with a soft crinkle. A $5 bill. Wrinkled. Stained. Smoothed flat by small, desperate hands. "I'm sorry to interrupt, mister," Sophia said, her voice shaking but brave. "But I need to hire you. My name is Sophia Campbell. I'm 5 years old. And the bad man is killing my mummy." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Mario Dragon stared at the child, then at the $5, then back at the child. His expression, always unreadable, always controlled, cracked. "Just for a second. Just enough." "Everyone out," he said quietly. "Boss." "Out." The room emptied in 30 seconds. Only Sophia remained, small and fragile and impossibly brave, waiting for the monster to speak. Mario Dragon had negotiated with Russian mobsters, stared down federal prosecutors, and ordered executions without blinking. He'd built an empire where hesitation meant death and mercy was a myth. In 30 years, nothing had surprised him. Until a 5-year-old girl offered him $5 to save her mother's life. He studied her across the table, this tiny creature with dirt under her fingernails and bruises painting her arms like watercolors of suffering. Her white dress was 2 sizes too small, the hem torn. Her feet were bare. But her eyes. Christ, her eyes held a determination that would have impressed his most hardened soldiers. "What's your mother's name?" Mario asked, his voice softer than he'd used in years. "Edna Campbell." Sophia's hands twisted together in her lap. "She works 2 jobs. At the diner and cleaning offices at night. She tries so hard, but it's never enough." "And the bad man?" Sophia's face crumpled. "His name is Vance. Vance Holloway. He used to be married to Mummy, but she left because he hurt her. She got papers from a judge that said he had to stay away, but he doesn't listen. He has important friends. Police friends." Mario's jaw tightened. "What did he do?" "Last night he broke our door. We live in a basement room near the old factory. He said Mummy was his property and nobody leaves him. He hit her so many times." Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. "She told me to hide in the closet. I heard everything. This morning, Mummy couldn't get out of bed. Her face is all purple and her breathing sounds wrong." The child wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing more dirt across her face. "I went to the police station. The man at the desk said Mummy probably deserved it. I went to a lawyer office. The lady said we couldn't afford help. Then I heard the big kids at the shelter talking about you. They said you're the scariest man in the city. They said when nobody else can help, the dragon can." She pushed the $5 bill across the table with both hands. "This is all we have. I know it's not much. But please, mister. Please make the bad man stop. I don't want my mummy to die." Mario stared at the crumpled bill. $5. The cost of a coffee. This child had brought him everything she owned and asked him to wage a war. Something cold and dead in his chest shifted. Cracked. He saw another little girl in his mind, dark hair, bright laugh, a smile that lit rooms. Sophia. His daughter. Dead 7 years because he couldn't protect her from his enemies. He couldn't save his Sophia. But maybe. Mario stood abruptly. The sudden movement made Sophia flinch, and that small gesture of fear made his decision absolute. He walked to the door and yanked it open. His men stood in the hallway, trying not to look like they'd been listening. "Tommy, get this child food. Real food, not vending machine garbage. Get her clean clothes, shoes that fit, and a doctor to check her over." Mario's voice carried the authority that moved millions in illegal currency. Marco, I want a team at. He glanced back at Sophia. Where does your mother work? Tony's Diner on 8th Street. She's there until 3. Tony's Diner. Bring Edna Campbell here. I don't care if she's scared or refuses. Be professional, be gentle, but bring her. Tell her daughter is safe and needs her. Boss, Marco started. Mario's eyes went arctic. Did I stutter? No, sir. But, we don't do civilian rescues. We do now. Mario stepped closer, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. That child walked through hell to get here because every system meant to protect her failed. The police dismissed her. Lawyers turned her away. A 5-year-old had more courage than every authority figure in this city combined. So yes, Marco, we're doing a civilian rescue. And anyone who has a problem with that can find new employment. Silence. Then Marco nodded. On it, boss. Tommy approached hesitantly. Sir, about the kid. Her name is Sophia. Mario's voice was steel wrapped in silk. And she's under my protection now. Anyone who touches her answers to me personally. Spread the word. He returned to the conference room where Sophia sat small and alone at the massive table. Mario lowered himself into the chair beside her, not across from her, and met her eyes at her level. Sophia, I'm going to fix this. Your mother will be safe. You'll both be safe. That's my promise. Can $5 really buy that? She whispered. Mario picked up the bill and placed it gently in her palm, closing her small fingers around it. You already paid me something worth more than money. You gave me your trust. That's a debt I take seriously. For the first time since she'd entered, Sophia smiled. It was small, fragile, and utterly heartbreaking. Outside the room, Tommy and Marco exchanged glances. In 15 years, they'd never seen the dragon like this. The war had just begun. Edna Campbell was wiping down table 7 when 2 men in expensive suits walked into Tony's diner. They didn't belong. Everything about them screamed money and danger, the cut of their clothes, the way they moved, the bulges under their jackets that could only be weapons. Her hand started shaking. Vance had sent people before. Lawyers. Friends. Once, an off-duty cop who'd threatened to take Sophia away if Edna didn't cooperate. The taller man approached, his voice low and professional. Edna Campbell? She stepped back, the coffee pot trembling in her grip. I don't want trouble. Please. Just leave me alone. Ma'am, we're not here to hurt you. He raised his hands, palms out. Your daughter is safe. She's with our employer, and she's asking for you. The coffee pot slipped from Edna's fingers, shattering against the linoleum. Sophia? Where's Sophia? What have you done with her? The second man spoke, gentler. She walked into our boss's office this morning asking for help. She's fed, clothed, and protected. But she needs you. Will you come with us? Your boss? Edna's voice cracked. Who's your boss? Mario Dragon. The name hit her like a fist. The dragon. The crime lord. The man parents used to scare children into behaving. Edna's knees buckled. She grabbed the counter for support. Oh God. Oh God, what has she done? Something incredibly brave, the tall man said. Please, Mrs. Campbell. Your daughter is waiting. The SUV was black, bulletproof, and smelled like leather and gun oil. Edna sat in the back, sandwiched between the 2 men, her mind screaming that this was a kidnapping, that she'd never see daylight again, that Sophia. The gates opened to a compound that looked like something from a movie. Marble. Iron. Guards with earpieces. Edna's terror crystallized into certainty. She and Sophia were going to die. They led her through hallways that cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Every instinct told her to run, but where would she go? These men could find her anywhere. The door opened to a sitting room bathed in afternoon light. And there, on a leather sofa that probably cost more than Edna's yearly rent, sat Sophia. Clean. Dressed in new clothes. Eating a sandwich. Mummy. Sophia launched herself across the room. Edna caught her, dropping to her knees, hands frantically checking her daughter for injuries. Baby, oh baby, are you hurt? Did they hurt you? No, Mummy. They gave me food and a doctor looked at me and they were nice. Mrs. Campbell. Edna spun, pulling Sophia behind her. A man stood in the doorway. Bald, scarred, his face carved from violence and old wars. Mario Dragon. She'd seen his picture once in a newspaper article about organized crime. She held Sophia tighter. Please don't hurt her. Whatever you want, I'll do it, just don't hurt my daughter. Mario's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Your daughter came to me this morning and asked me to help you. She offered me $5 to stop a man named Vance Holloway. Edna's blood went cold. She what? She walked 4 blocks through the worst neighborhood in this city to hire me. Mario moved into the room slowly, deliberately non-threatening. She told me about the abuse. The police who dismissed her. The lawyers who turned her away. She showed me more courage in 10 minutes than most of my men show in a lifetime. Tears burned Edna's eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know I never wanted her involved. Stop apologizing. Mario's voice was firm but not unkind. You have nothing to apologize for. You're the victim here. Your daughter recognized what you couldn't, that the system failed you both. So she found someone outside the system. He lowered himself into a chair across from them, keeping distance, keeping his hands visible. Mrs. Campbell, I'm going to fix your problem. Vance Holloway will never touch you again. But first, you both need somewhere safe. Somewhere he can't find you. I can't afford. Your daughter already paid me. Mario's tone brooked no argument. I'm a lot of things, Mrs. Campbell. Most of them aren't good. But I honor my contracts. Sophia hired me to protect you. That's exactly what I'm going to do. The safe house was in a neighborhood Edna had only seen in magazines. Tree-lined streets. Wrought iron gates. Houses that looked like mansions. Inside, the apartment was pristine. Hardwood floors. Furniture that wasn't thrift store salvage. A kitchen with actual food in the refrigerator. 2 bedrooms, with beds that had real mattresses and clean sheets. Sophia ran from room to room, her eyes wide. Mummy, look. A bathroom with a bathtub. And the bed is so soft. Edna stood in the center of the living room, shaking. This couldn't be real. This had to be a trap. Crime lords didn't help people. They used people. Mario's lieutenant, Marco, stood by the door. There are guards outside. You're safe here. The number on the kitchen counter reaches us directly. Anything you need, call. Why? Edna whispered. Why would he do this? Marco's expression softened. Because your daughter reminded him of someone he lost. And because maybe, Mrs. Campbell, even dragons remember what it's like to care. That night, Sophia slept in a real bed for the first time in her life. Edna sat beside her, watching her daughter's peaceful face, and let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe nightmares could end. Outside, 2 of Mario Dragon's most trusted men stood watch. The war for Edna Campbell's freedom had begun. 3 years earlier. The first time Vance Holloway hit Edna, he cried afterward. He bought flowers. He promised it would never happen again. He blamed stress from work, too much whiskey, her tone of voice. She believed him because she wanted to believe that the man she'd married still existed somewhere beneath the rage. The second time, there were no flowers. Just excuses. By the 100th time, there were no words at all. Just fists and silence and the careful application of violence to places clothing would hide. Edna learned the architecture of abuse. How to read his moods by the weight of his footsteps. How to make herself smaller, quieter, invisible. How to apply makeup to bruises and lie to emergency room doctors about falling downstairs. She filed her first restraining order when Sophia was 2. The judge, a golfing buddy of Vance's from the country club, looked at Edna's trembling hands and split lip and asked, "Are you sure you're not exaggerating? Mr. Holloway is a respected businessman." The order was granted but never enforced. She filed a police report after Vance broke her wrist. The officer who took her statement sighed like she was wasting his time. "Ma'am, domestic disputes are complicated. Are you sure you're not being overly emotional? Mr. Holloway says you attacked him first." No charges were filed. She went to 3 lawyers. The first said Vance's legal team would bury her. The second quoted fees she couldn't afford. The third listened to her story, looked at the photos of her bruises, and said quietly, "I'm sorry, but I have to work in this town. Vance Holloway knows too many people." The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed, to protect men like Vance and abandon women like Edna. So she ran. Took Sophia in the middle of the night with nothing but a backpack and her daughter's hand in hers. Found a basement apartment near the old factory district where the rent was cheap and the landlord didn't ask questions. She thought distance would save them. She was wrong. Vance found her within 3 months. He always found her. And each time, he made sure she remembered who she belonged to. Edna sat on the edge of the pristine bed in the safe house, her hands clenched in her lap. Through the doorway, she could see Sophia in the living room, playing with a set of wooden blocks one of Mario's men had brought. The child was building towers and knocking them down, giggling each time they fell. The sound was foreign. Alien. Sophia hadn't laughed like that in months. A gentle knock. Marco stood in the doorway, holding a first aid kit. "Mrs. Campbell, the boss wanted me to check on you. May I?" Edna nodded mutely. He entered slowly, setting the kit on the nightstand. "Your daughter mentioned you were hurt in the last attack. Will you let me see?" She pulled up her shirt with shaking hands, revealing the bruises across her ribs, purple and yellow and green, a timeline of violence painted on her skin. Marco's jaw tightened, but his hands were gentle as he examined her. 3 cracked ribs. Bruised kidney. "You should be in a hospital. I couldn't afford. You can now." His voice was firm. "I'm calling our doctor. He'll be here within the hour." "Why?" The word burst from Edna like a wound. "Why are you doing this? People like me don't get rescued. We just survive until we don't." Marco sat in the chair across from her, his expression softer than his scarred face suggested. "Mrs. Campbell, do you know why the boss took your daughter's case?" Edna shook her head. 7 years ago, Mario Dragon had a daughter. Sophia. She was 8 when a rival gang targeted the boss by planting a car bomb. Sophia was killed instantly. Marco's voice dropped. He kept her room exactly as she left it. Never moved a single toy. For 7 years, he's been a ghost in his own life, running an empire but feeling nothing. He gestured toward the living room where Sophia was now showing her tower to one of the guards, who was pretending to be impressively amazed. "Then your daughter walked into his office with $5 and asked him to save you. She reminded him what it means to protect something innocent. What it means to care." Marco met Edna's eyes. "You didn't just hire the dragon, Mrs. Campbell. You gave him a reason to be human again." Edna's tears came then, hot and unstoppable. Years of grief and fear and exhaustion pouring out in great, gasping sobs. Marco said nothing, just handed her tissues and let her break. In the living room, Sophia's laughter rang out again. Pure. Unafraid. For the first time in 3 years, Edna let herself hope. That night, Sophia fell asleep clutching a stuffed dragon one of the guards had bought her. Edna watched her daughter's peaceful face and whispered promises into the dark. "I'm going to teach you that the world can be kind. That men can be good. That you don't have to be brave anymore, baby. Mummy's going to learn how to be brave now." Outside, 2 guards maintained their watch. Inside, a woman who'd lived in chains for years took her first free breath. The nightmare was ending. The reckoning was just beginning. Mario Dragon didn't believe in quick deaths. He believed in dismantling empires brick by brick, watching men who thought themselves untouchable realize too late that power was an illusion. Vance Holloway was about to learn that lesson. Mario sat in his office, a file 3 inches thick spread across his mahogany desk. 24 hours of research had revealed what he suspected. Vance Holloway wasn't just a domestic abuser. He was a parasite who'd spent 15 years bleeding the city dry while hiding behind a veneer of respectability. "Talk to me, Vincent," Mario said to his financial analyst. Vincent adjusted his glasses, his finger tracing columns of numbers. Vance Holloway is CFO of Holloway and Preston Development. On paper, it's legitimate. Underneath? He whistled low. Embezzlement, tax fraud, kickback schemes with city officials. He's been skimming for years, small amounts, smart about it. But it's there. I'd estimate 7 million, maybe more. Can you prove it? Give me 48 hours and access to his company servers. I can prove it well enough that the IRS will be very interested. Mario smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Do it. And Vincent? Make sure copies end up with that federal prosecutor, Morrison. The one who owes me. On it, boss. Tommy entered next, dropping a manila folder on the desk. Vance's political connections. 3 city councilmen, 2 judges, 1 police captain. I've got dirt on all of them, affairs, bribes, the usual. Mario flipped through the photos. A councilman with his mistress. A judge accepting cash in a parking garage. The police captain stumbling drunk out of a strip club. Send these anonymously to their wives and the local news, Mario said. Not all at once. Stagger them over 2 weeks. I want Vance to watch his protection crumble and wonder why. Tommy grinned. You're not just destroying him. You're making him paranoid. I'm making him understand what it feels like to be helpless. Mario's voice was ice. He terrorized that woman for years. Made her feel like no one would help her, that she was alone. Now he gets to feel the same. By day 3, the first domino fell. Councilman Richards resigned amid scandal. By day 5, Judge Chen was suspended pending investigation. By day 7, the police captain was arrested for DUI and accepting bribes. Vance's phone calls went unreturned. His lawyers started missing meetings. The mayor, who'd been to Vance's house for dinner parties, suddenly couldn't remember his name. Anonymous tips flooded honest journalists. Spreadsheets showing embezzlement. Audio recordings of Vance bragging about bribing officials. Photos of him leaving Edna's apartment building the night of the last assault, timestamp and all. The walls were closing in, and Vance Holloway had no idea who was building them. At the safe house, Sophia sat at the kitchen table with a box of crayons and construction paper. The guards had learned her schedule, breakfast at 8, drawing until 10, then cartoons while Edna rested. Today she was drawing Mr. Dragon. Whatcha making, little bit? Marcus, the youngest guard, peered over her shoulder. It's Mr. Dragon, Sophia explained, her tongue poking out in concentration. But he's not scary here. He's nice. Marcus studied the picture. A bald figure in a suit, yes, but Sophia had added something unexpected, giant angel wings spreading from his back, and a halo of golden crayon above his head. Why'd you give him wings? Marcus asked. Sophia looked up, her expression serious. 'Cause angels protect people. And Mr. Dragon is protecting me and Mummy. So he's my angel. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. He'd been in this business for 8 years, done things he wasn't proud of. But this kid, this brave, broken, beautiful kid, saw angels where the rest of the world saw monsters. Can I take this to him? Marcus asked gently. I think he'd like to see it. Sophia beamed. Really? You think he'll like it? I think it might be the best thing anyone's given him in a long time. That evening, Marcus placed the drawing on Mario's desk. The boss was reviewing financials, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. He glanced at the paper, and his hand froze halfway to his mouth. Silence stretched. Then, carefully, Mario set down his glass and picked up the drawing. His fingers traced the crayon wings, the crooked halo, the smile Sophia had given him, a smile he'd never actually worn. She drew this? His voice was rough. Said you're her angel. Said angels protect people. Marcus shifted his weight. Boss, that kid sees something in you the rest of the world doesn't. Mario didn't respond. He opened his desk drawer, the one where he kept important documents, emergency cash, his daughter Sophia's last school photo. He placed Sophia's drawing inside, right next to his daughter's picture. 2 Sophias. One he'd failed. One he wouldn't. How's the Holloway situation? Marcus asked. Mario's expression hardened back into the dragon the world knew. His company's being audited. His political allies are abandoning ship. By next week, he'll have nothing but enemies and questions. And then? Then we take everything else. Mario closed the drawer gently, as if the drawing were made of glass. That little girl gave me $5 and called me an angel. I'm going to make damn sure I earn that title. Outside, the city hummed with secrets and sins. Inside, a crime lord looked at a child's drawing and remembered what it meant to be worthy of someone's faith. The war wasn't over. But Vance Holloway's world was already burning. Mario Dragon's house sat on 3 acres of manicured lawn in the most exclusive part of the city, a fortress disguised as a mansion. 20 rooms. 15 bathrooms. Armed guards at every entrance. And one room that hadn't been touched in 7 years. Mario stood in the doorway of Sophia's bedroom, whiskey in hand, staring at the frozen moment of his daughter's life. Pink walls covered with horse posters. A bookshelf crammed with stories about princesses and dragons. The irony wasn't lost on him. Stuffed animals arranged on a bed that would never be slept in again. She'd been 8 years old. Dark hair like her mother. A laugh that could light up rooms. She'd called him Daddy without fear, not knowing what her father really was. The Kozlov family had planted the car bomb. Retribution for Mario encroaching on their territory. They'd meant to kill him. Instead, they'd killed the only pure thing in his life. Mario had destroyed the Kozlovs within a month. Every single member. Their businesses. Their families. Their legacy. He'd erased them from existence like they'd never breathed. But it didn't bring her back. Nothing brought her back. He took a long drink, the whiskey burning familiar and empty. 7 years of this ritual, standing in this doorway, talking to a ghost, promising her he'd never fail to protect someone again. 7 years of lying to a dead child. Until 5 days ago, when another little girl had walked into his office and reminded him what protection actually meant. Boss? Mario turned. Vincent stood in the hallway, his expression cautious. His financial analyst knew better than to disturb him here. This better be important. The Holloway audit came back. Federal prosecutors are filing charges. He'll be arrested within 48 hours. Vincent paused. But there's something else. The safe house called. The little girl, Sophia, she's been asking for you. Mario's grip tightened on his glass. Asking for me? She drew you another picture. Wants to give it to you personally. Vincent's voice softened. Marco says she keeps telling her mother that Mr. Dragon promised, and dragons keep promises. Mario looked back at Sophia's room. At the stuffed dragon his daughter had slept with every night, purple and ridiculous, with button eyes and a goofy grin. Tell them I'm coming. The drive to the safe house took 20 minutes. Marco met him at the door, his expression concerned. Boss, before you go in, you need to be careful. Careful of what? A 5-year-old? Careful of getting attached. Marco's voice was low, urgent. I've worked for you 12 years. I've never seen you like this. You're not just protecting them. You're investing in them. Emotionally. Mario's eyes went cold. Your point? My point is that this isn't our world. We deal in violence and strategy. These are civilians, a traumatized woman and a kid who thinks you're a hero. What happens when this is over? When Holloway's in jail and they don't need us anymore? You gonna just walk away? I haven't decided. That's what scares me. Marco met his gaze. Boss, I know what you lost. We all know. But that little girl in there isn't Sophia. She can't replace. Don't. The word was a blade. Don't tell me what she can or can't be. I know she's not my daughter. But maybe that's exactly why this matters. Mario pushed past him into the safe house. Sophia was in the living room, surrounded by drawings. When she saw Mario, her entire face lit up, pure, unfiltered joy that hit him like a bullet to the chest. Mr. Dragon. You came. She ran to him, and without thinking, Mario knelt down, catching her as she wrapped small arms around his neck. The hug was fierce and trusting and everything he didn't deserve. I drew you something new, Sophia said, pulling back. She handed him a paper covered in crayon. It's you and me and Mummy. We're safe. See? No bad man. The drawing showed 3 figures holding hands under a smiling sun. A bald man in black. A woman with brown hair. A small girl between them. A family. Mario's throat tightened. He hadn't felt anything like this in 7 years, this crushing weight of responsibility mixed with something terrifyingly close to hope. Sophia, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Can you do that? She nodded, her brown eyes wide and serious. I promise you, on everything I am, that the bad man will never hurt your mother again. In 2 days, he's going to be arrested. He'll go to jail for a very long time. You and your mummy will be safe. Not just for now. Forever. Really? Her voice was so small, so full of desperate hope. Really? Dragons keep their promises. Sophia threw her arms around him again, and this time Mario let himself hold her back. Over her shoulder, he saw Edna standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face, mouthing, "Thank you," over and over. When Sophia finally pulled away, she looked up at him with absolute trust. I knew you'd save us. Angels always do. Mario drove back to his mansion in silence. When he arrived, he didn't go to his office. He went to Sophia's room. He stood in the doorway, looking at the frozen shrine to his failure, and made a decision. I couldn't save you, baby girl, he whispered. But maybe I can save someone like you. Maybe that's enough. He closed the door gently. For the first time in 7 years, he didn't open it again that night. Vance Holloway sat in his home office, 8,000 square feet of marble and mahogany that suddenly felt like a cage, and watched his world disintegrate in real time. His company email pinged with another message, federal investigators requiring full financial records dating back 10 years. His phone buzzed, Councilman Richards is cooperating with authorities. Suggests you retain separate legal counsel. His lawyer, his fourth this week, had stopped returning calls. Vance poured another scotch with shaking hands. 3 weeks ago, he'd been untouchable. CFO of a multi-million-dollar development company. Connected to every power player in the city. Protected. Now, the IRS was crawling through his finances. His political allies had vanished like smoke. Even the police captain who dismissed Edna's complaints had been arrested on corruption charges. Someone was destroying him. Methodically. Professionally. Completely. But who? Vance had enemies. You didn't climb to his position without making them, but none with this kind of reach. This was surgical. Coordinated. The work of someone with resources and connections that made Vance's own network look like a child's game. His mind spiraled through possibilities. Business rivals? The Kozlov remnants? That prosecutor he'd crossed 5 years ago? Then, a worse thought, what if it's about Edna? No. Impossible. Edna was nothing. A waitress. A victim. She had no money, no connections, no way to orchestrate something like this. But she had disappeared. Vance had gone to her basement apartment 3 times since the last lesson he'd taught her. Empty. Cleared out. Her shift at the diner, covered by someone else. The cleaning company said she'd quit without notice. Edna had run before. He always found her. But this time felt different. This time, she had help. Vance called the number from a burner phone, his legitimate lines too compromised. I need someone found. Discreetly. The private investigator, a man named Keller who specialized in tracking down runaways, answered on the second ring. Who's the target? A woman. Edna Campbell. Mid-30s, brown hair, works minimum wage jobs. She has a daughter, 5 years old. I need to know where they are. Relationship to you? Ex-wife. Custody dispute. The lie came easily. It always did. Retainer is $5,000. Results in 72 hours or your money back. Done. 48 hours later, Keller called back. Your ex-wife dropped off the grid completely. Last known location was that basement apartment you gave me. She quit both jobs on the same day, no notice, no forwarding address. The kid hasn't shown up at any schools or shelters in a 50-mile radius. Someone's hiding her, Vance said, his voice tight. That'd be my guess. And whoever it is has resources. I tried tracing her bank account, closed. Phone, disconnected. It's like she never existed. Keller paused. Mr. Holloway, you said this was a custody dispute. But the way she disappeared? That's witness protection level vanishing. What aren't you telling me? Vance ended the call. Witness protection. Or something worse. His hands trembled as he poured another drink. Someone with serious power was shielding Edna. Someone who could make people disappear and destroy lives with precision. He needed leverage. He needed her to come out of hiding. Vance opened his laptop and navigated to a fake job posting site his company used to screen candidates. Within 30 minutes, he'd created a listing. Tony's Diner seeks experienced waitress. $18 per hour plus tips. Immediate hire. Flexible hours for single mothers. The bait was perfect. Edna was desperate for money, always had been. She'd see the wage, more than she'd ever made, and the specific mention of single mothers, and she'd bite. He sent the posting to her old email address. The one she'd had for years, the one she probably still checked out of habit. Come on, Edna. Take the bait. Just one meeting. That's all I need. Then he'd find out who was protecting her. And he'd destroy them the way they were destroying him. At the Dragon compound, a monitor pinged in the security room. Tommy looked up from his coffee, scanning the alert. Boss, we got something. Incoming email to Edna Campbell's old address. Mario appeared behind him within seconds. Show me. The job posting filled the screen. Mario read it once, then again, his expression darkening with each word. It's a trap, Vincent said from the doorway. That job doesn't exist. I checked the diner, they're not hiring. It's Vance trying to flush her out. Mario's jaw tightened. Did the email reach her? No, sir. We've been intercepting all communication to that address since day one. She has no idea it was sent. Good. Mario's voice was ice and fury. Vance Holloway is getting desperate. Desperate men make mistakes. Vincent, I want surveillance on him 24/7. If he so much as drives past that diner, I want to know. Tommy, double the guards at the safe house. He's hunting, which means he's dangerous. Boss, Marco said carefully. Cornered animals attack. Maybe it's time to accelerate the timeline. Get him arrested now, before he does something stupid. Mario looked at the fake job posting, imagining Edna seeing it, hoping for legitimate work, walking into Vance's trap. No. He's going to be arrested in 18 hours when the federal prosecutors file charges. Until then, we keep Edna and Sophia invisible. Vance can hunt all he wants. He'll never find them. Mario turned away from the screen, his voice dropping to something lethal. And when they lock him away, I want him to know exactly who destroyed him. I want him to understand that he didn't just abuse a woman. He abused the wrong woman's daughter. In his desperate hunt, Vance Holloway had no idea he was already dead. He just hadn't stopped breathing yet. Mario Dragon believed in poetic justice. You terrorize a woman? You get destroyed by the ghost of your victim. He stood in the security room, watching live feeds from 6 different cameras positioned around Tony's diner. Dawn was breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of amber and blood. She's in position, Tommy said, gesturing to one of the screens. The woman walking toward the diner looked enough like Edna Campbell to pass at a distance, same height, same build, brown hair pulled into a ponytail. But up close, anyone would see the differences. The harder set to her jaw. The confident stride. The earpiece hidden beneath her hair. Her name was Rachel, and she'd been doing undercover work for Mario's organization for 6 years. Former military, now one of his most trusted operatives. Rachel, comms check, Mario said into the microphone. Loud and clear, boss. I'm 50 yards from the diner. No sign of our target yet. Federal agents? For units in position. 2 undercover inside the diner, 2 in unmarked vehicles on adjacent streets. Prosecutor Morrison is standing by with the arrest warrant. Rachel's voice was steady, professional. And your men? 8 positions surrounding the location. If Vance tries to run, he won't make it 10 feet. Mario's eyes never left the screens. Remember, Rachel, we need him to make the first move. The moment he shows aggression, shows intent to harm, the feds move in. Copy that. One abusive bastard, served on a silver platter. Vance Holloway sat in his Mercedes 2 blocks from Tony's diner, watching the entrance through binoculars. His hands shook, from fury or fear or the half bottle of scotch he'd consumed, he couldn't tell anymore. The email he'd sent had worked. His inside contact at the phone company had confirmed someone accessed Edna's email and clicked the job posting link. She'd taken the bait. Finally, he'd get answers. He'd find out who was protecting her, who was destroying him. And then he'd make them all pay. He'd brought a gun, a Glock 19 he'd bought off the books years ago. Not to kill her. Just to remind her who she belonged to. Just to make her understand that running was pointless. A figure approached the diner. Brown hair, thin build, walking with that familiar defeated slouch Edna always had. Vance's pulse quickened. He shoved the gun into his jacket pocket and stepped out of the car. Rachel saw him coming before he saw her. 6 feet tall, expensive suit wrinkled and stained, eyes wild with something between rage and desperation. She'd seen that look before, on men who'd run out of options and decided everyone else should pay for it. Edna. Vance called out, his voice too loud for the quiet morning street. Rachel turned slowly, let recognition dawn on her face, fear, shock, the exact expression a battered woman would have seen her abuser. Years of training made the performance flawless. Vance, she breathed, stepping back. How did you? Shut up. He closed the distance in 3 strides, grabbing her arm hard enough to bruise. His other hand went to his jacket pocket. You think you can run from me? You think whoever's protecting you can stop me from? From what, Mr. Holloway? Vance spun. A man stood behind him, bald, scarred, radiating the kind of controlled violence that made Vance's bladder weaken. Mario Dragon. Who the hell are you? Vance demanded, his voice cracking. I'm the man who's been dismantling your life piece by piece for the past 3 weeks. Mario's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. The one who exposed your embezzlement. The one who destroyed your political protection. The one who's been keeping Edna Campbell and her daughter safe from you. Vance's hand tightened in his pocket, fingers wrapping around the gun. You made a mistake getting involved in my business. No, Mr. Holloway. You made the mistake. Mario gestured casually. See, I could have just killed you. Would have been easier. But a 5-year-old girl asked me to make you stop hurting her mother. She didn't ask for violence. She asked for justice. Justice? Vance laughed, high and desperate. You're a crime lord lecturing me about justice? At least I don't beat women and terrorize children. Mario's expression went arctic. You're going to spend the next 15 years in prison thinking about that. Vance yanked the gun from his pocket. And froze. 8 red laser dots appeared on his chest. Men materialized from doorways, from parked cars, from shadows. All armed. All aimed at him. Federal agents. Drop the weapon. The voice came from behind him. Vance turned to see 4 agents, badges displayed, weapons drawn. Beyond them, more agents emerged from the diner. Vance Holloway, you're under arrest for embezzlement, tax fraud, bribery of public officials, and assault with a deadly weapon. Prosecutor Morrison stepped forward, holding up a warrant. You have the right to remain. This is a setup. Vance screamed, the gun shaking in his hand. He orchestrated this. He's. Drop the weapon or we will shoot, an agent barked. The gun clattered to the pavement. Within seconds, Vance was face down on the concrete, hands zip-tied behind his back, his expensive suit grinding into the dirt. Mario crouched beside him, his voice low enough only Vance could hear. That little girl you traumatized? She gave me $5 and asked me to save her mother. You made a child brave enough to walk into hell itself. So I made sure hell walked right back to you. Vance's eyes widened with understanding. The daughter, she came to you? She came to me. And now you're going to spend every day in prison knowing that you were destroyed by a 5-year-old's courage and a crime lord's promise. Mario stood, brushing off his hands like he'd touched something contaminated. Enjoy your new accommodations, Mr. Holloway. I hear prison's especially hard on men who hurt women. They dragged Vance to a waiting federal vehicle. He was still screaming, about setups and conspiracies and innocence, when they closed the door. Mario watched the car disappear around the corner, then turned to Rachel. Nice work. Always happy to trap a predator, boss. She pulled off the wig, her real blonde hair spilling out. The little girl, she's really safe now? She's really safe. Mario looked at the empty street, at the rising sun. For the first time in her life, she's really safe. The courtroom was packed. Journalists. Victims. Federal agents. Every seat filled with people who'd waited years to see Vance Holloway face consequences. Mario Dragon watched from the back row, a ghost in an expensive suit. He didn't belong here. Men like him avoided courtrooms unless they were defendants. But he'd promised a 5-year-old girl that the bad man would be stopped. He intended to see it through. The prosecutor's case was airtight. $7 million in embezzled funds, documented across a decade. Bribes to 3 city officials, captured on audio recordings. Restraining order violations spanning 3 years. Hospital records from Edna's visits, 14 separate incidents, each dismissed or ignored because Vance knew which palms to grease. The defense attorney, Vance's 6th, the only one desperate enough to take the case, tried. He called it a business dispute. Claimed the domestic incidents were misunderstandings. Suggested Edna was unstable. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The judge, a woman in her 60s who'd spent 30 years watching men like Vance escape justice, looked at him with something close to satisfaction. Mr. Holloway, you used your wealth and connections to terrorize a woman for years while committing financial crimes that robbed this city of millions. You corrupted public officials and weaponized the legal system against your victim. She paused, letting the words sink in. I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 7. You will also pay full restitution of embezzled funds and a $2 million fine. The gavel came down like thunder. Vance's face crumpled. This isn't justice. I was set up. That crime lord. Remove him, the judge said calmly. They dragged Vance from the courtroom, still screaming about conspiracies and setups. Mario allowed himself a small smile. The man was right, of course. It had been a setup. Just a perfectly legal one. As Mario stood to leave, the prosecutor caught his eye across the crowded room. Morrison gave an almost imperceptible nod, acknowledgement of a debt paid. Mario returned it. Some debts, after all, were worth collecting. The apartment Mario had secured for Edna and Sophia was in a neighborhood where children played in parks without fear and mothers didn't flinch at loud noises. 3 bedrooms, a real kitchen, windows that let in actual sunlight. Edna had cried when she first saw it. I can't afford this. It's paid for, Marco had told her. 2 years, up front. After that, there's a trust fund established in your name. You'll never have to work 2 jobs again. You can finish that nursing degree you started. Why would he do this? Because your daughter asked him to save you. And the dragon keeps his promises. Mario's final visit came on a Tuesday afternoon. Sophia was in the living room, building an elaborate castle from the blocks Marcus had brought her. When she saw Mario, she abandoned the construction and ran to him. Mr. Dragon. Did you see? I have my own room now. With a bed and everything. Mario knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. Up close, he could see how much she'd changed in 4 weeks. The bruises had faded. Her cheeks had filled out from regular meals. But more than that, her eyes held light instead of fear. I heard, he said softly. I'm glad you're safe now. The bad man can't hurt Mummy anymore. Never again. I promise. Sophia threw her arms around his neck, holding him with the fierce trust only children possess. Thank you for saving my mummy, she whispered against his shoulder. You're the best dragon ever. Mario's throat tightened. He held her for a moment longer than necessary, memorizing the feeling. This small person who'd walked into hell to save someone she loved, who'd given him $5 and called him an angel. When she pulled back, Mario reached into his jacket and withdrew a small frame. Behind the glass was Sophia's crumpled $5 bill, preserved and mounted. This is yours, he said, handing it to her. You keep this. Sophia's eyes widened. But I gave it to you. And it was the best payment I ever received. But it belongs to you. He traced the edge of the frame gently. Someday, when you're older, look at this and remember that being brave doesn't mean being big or strong. It means standing up when you're small and scared and doing the right thing anyway. You taught me that. I taught you? Sophia looked confused. But you're the grown-up. Sometimes, Mario said, the smallest people teach the biggest lessons. Edna appeared in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. She mouthed, "Thank you," for what must have been the 1,000th time. Mario stood, nodding to her. No words were necessary. They both understood what had been saved here, not just a life, but a future. As Mario walked to his car, he heard Sophia's voice calling from the window. "Mr. Dragon. Will I see you again?" He turned, looking up at the small figure waving from the third-floor window. Safe. Smiling. Finally allowed to be a child. "Maybe someday," he called back. "You know where to find me if you need me." "I won't need you," Sophia said with absolute certainty. "Because you fixed everything. But maybe I'll visit anyway. To say hi." "I'd like that." Mario climbed into his car. Marco, waiting in the driver's seat, glanced at him. "You good, boss?" Mario looked back at the apartment building one last time. Sophia was still at the window, waving enthusiastically. He raised his hand in return. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm good." As they pulled away, Mario thought about his daughter Sophia's room, the shrine he'd finally started dismantling last week. Some ghosts needed to be honored, not imprisoned. Some grief needed to be felt, not fossilized. And some promises needed to be kept. A $5 bill. A desperate child. A woman freed from chains. In 30 years of running an empire built on fear, Mario Dragon had done terrible things. But this, protecting a child who'd shown more courage than any of his soldiers, giving a broken woman her life back, this was something good. Maybe it didn't erase the darkness. But it proved light could exist there too. In a city where power protected predators and justice was a commodity, one 5-year-old girl proved that courage doesn't require size, strength, or money. Sometimes it just requires believing that someone, somewhere, will listen. And sometimes, the monsters we fear are the ones who save us.